On Christmas Eve, my dining room looked like love. Candles lit, gifts waiting, my son smiling. Then he said I deserved nothing because I needs to learn a lesson. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. I just glanced at the drawer beside my chair and waited. If you found your way here tonight, you're not alone. These stories are told quietly, the way real life happens. If that kind of truth matters to you, stay with me. By Christmas Eve, my house always smells the same. Warm bread, citrus polish, pine from the tree. Savannah winters are gentle, but I still light candles. Old habits stay. My name is Margaret Collins. I'm 71, widowed 8 years now. Long enough to understand how quiet a house can feel, and still keep it open. Hosting Christmas has always been my way of holding on, especially with my son Daniel. Especially after his father passed. I set the table early that afternoon. The good plates, not fancy, just familiar. I smoothed the runner flat, then smoothed it again. My hands like routine when my heart feels unsure. Daniel used to call every few days. Quick check-ins. Nothing dramatic. Hey mom, just seeing how you are. Those calls hadn't stopped. They'd just stretched thin. I told myself that was marriage. Life getting busy. Young people learning how to build something new. Lila came into his life quickly. Bright smile. Sharp heels. She never raised her voice, but she filled a room anyway. I tried to like her. I really did. I cooked Daniel's favorites, baked the rolls he used to sneak before dinner, roasted chicken with herbs his father loved. I wanted him to smell home the moment he walked in. The tree stood by the window, lights blinking softly. Ornaments collected over decades. Trips we took. Years we survived. Small glass reminders that love lasts when you protect it. The gifts were wrapped neatly. I don't like excess paper. Clean corners, tight bows. For Daniel, I'd chosen a luxury sedan. Not brand new, sensible. Something that said, I see how hard you're trying. I'd saved quietly. Skipped trips. Put things off. Didn't mention it to anyone. For Lila, a designer tote. The kind she admired in store windows. The kind that makes someone feel noticed. I didn't do it to impress her. I did it to keep the evening calm. I wanted peace. There had been signs, though. Small ones. Easy to excuse if you love someone. Lila's spending didn't match her job. New shoes. Gold jewelry. Daniel waved it off. She's just good with money, Mom. Then came the comments. Always smiling. Always light. This house must be so much work for one person. Have you thought about downsizing? Not concern. Assessment. Daniel never corrected her. He'd glance at his phone or refill his glass. I noticed everything. Others do. Still, I hoped. Hope can be stubborn like that. I polished the silver, set out extra chairs, adjusted the lights to feel warmer, softer. When they arrived, I hugged Daniel first. He smelled like cologne and distance. He hugged back, but briefly. Lila stepped inside behind him. Her eyes moved slowly around the room, not admiring, measuring. Dinner smells nice, she said. I thanked her. We ate politely. Daniel talked about work. Lila checked her phone between bites. I watched them the way you watch weather, trying to predict what might come next. After dinner, we moved to the living room. The tree lights blinked gently. For a moment, the room felt almost peaceful. I brought out the gifts. Daniel looked surprised, touched even. When he saw the car keys, his breath caught. He hugged me, fully this time. And for a brief moment, I had my son back. Lila opened her gift next, lifted the tote, smiled once. Cute, she said, setting it aside. I folded my hands in my lap and waited. Because mothers always wait. I thought about the years. School lunches, late-night fevers, college bills, sitting beside Daniel after his father died. I never asked for anything back. Not once. Still, hope has a way of lingering. The room grew quiet. Too quiet. Daniel cleared his throat. Wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when I felt it. That small shift in the air. The one that tells you something important is about to break. I kept my smile steady, my hands still. Because sometimes dignity is the only thing holding you upright. But that peace was about to end. Daniel cleared his throat again, shifted in his seat. Then he looked past me, toward Lila. She gave a small nod, barely noticeable, but I saw it. "Mom," he said carefully, too carefully. "We didn't get you anything this year." The words didn't crash. They settled. That's what made them hurt. I blinked once, smoothed the edge of the tissue paper still resting on my lap. "Oh," I said. Just that. Daniel rushed forward, like he needed to fill the space. Lila leaned back, arms crossed, watching. "She thinks," he said, voice thinning, that you need to learn a lesson." The phrase sat there, right in my living room, like it belonged. Lila smiled. Not wide, satisfied. "The lesson?" I asked quietly. My voice surprised me. Steady. Even. "Yes," she said smoothly. "About giving without expecting anything back." I nodded. Slowly, as if I were considering a recipe. Inside, something folded in on itself. Not anger, not shock. Recognition. I looked at the tree. At the ornaments Daniel used to hang crooked. At the gifts already opened and pushed aside. I adjusted my posture, crossed my ankles, kept my hands where they could see them. Daniel tried to laugh. The sound didn't land. "It's not personal, Mom. Just growth." Growth. From what, exactly? I held his gaze. Not accusing, just waiting. Lila tapped her nail against her phone. Once. Twice. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how normal it felt to them. How rehearsed. How easy. As if this had been discussed, planned, agreed upon. As if my humiliation was educational. I inhaled slowly. Let the air out through my nose. The chair creaked as I leaned back. A small sound. Enough to remind them I was still there. Daniel finally looked at me. His eyes flickered, then dropped again. That's when I understood. This wasn't impulsive. It was practiced. I smiled. Not warmly. Politely. "Well," I said, standing, "I suppose every lesson has timing." I walked into the kitchen, rinsed a glass that was already clean, stood there longer than needed. When I came back, Lila was whispering to Daniel. Urgent. Tight. I sat down again. Felt my heart steady itself. Something in me went quiet and clear. That's when I knew. I would not stay silent. They stayed a little longer after that. Longer than comfort allows. Lila scrolled on her phone. Daniel drank water he didn't finish. I cleared plates that didn't need clearing. The kitchen light hummed softly. I let it. When the door finally closed behind them, the house exhaled. I stood in the entryway for a moment. Didn't move. Just listened to the quiet return. That familiar, heavy quiet. I carried the serving dishes to the sink, rinsed them slowly. One plate, then another. My hands kept moving. My thoughts stayed still. Needs to learn a lesson. The phrase circled back again, looking for somewhere to land. I wiped the counter, straightened a napkin that wouldn't be used. Then I sat at the table, in Daniel's chair. I thought about the years, not the big moments, the ordinary ones. Early mornings, packed lunches, late-night calls when he was scared or unsure, teaching him how to drive, how to budget, how to stand up straight and speak clearly. I never kept score. Mothers don't. But that night, something shifted. I started replaying things I'd brushed aside. Lila's comments about space, Daniel's distance, the way decisions were suddenly we, but never included me. The spending didn't sit right either. Not envy. Math. Designer pieces appearing too often, always paid in cash, always dismissed with a smile. I poured myself tea, let it cool untouched. Then the memory surfaced. The phone call. It had been weeks earlier, late afternoon. I was folding linens on the back porch. Daniel and Lila had stopped by briefly. Lila stepped away to take a call. I hadn't meant to listen, but voices sharpen when intent is involved. "No, he doesn't suspect anything," she said. Low, certain. I froze. The towel paused in my hands. Once the house sells, everything lines up. The word house hit hard. My house. "I just need him to push her," she added. "Then I'll be set." The call ended. She returned, smiling. I smiled back. Because sometimes instinct moves faster than reaction. Sitting alone that night, I let the pieces connect. Distance, pressure, money. Not cruelty, strategy. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, longer than normal. By morning, resolve had taken shape. I made coffee, opened my notebook, wrote one name, a private investigator. Recommended quietly. Professional. I told myself I wanted clarity, truth, not drama. The days that followed were measured. Phone calls made carefully. Documents requested without fuss. I kept my routines. Grocery store. Church. Garden beds that needed turning. Waiting is easier when life stays orderly. The investigator didn't rush me. Neither did I rush him. Information arrived slowly. First photographs. Then emails. Finally, financial records. Each piece confirmed what my instincts already knew. A wealthy property developer. An exit plan. A marriage used as leverage. Daniel wasn't her partner. He was her path. I closed the folder when it was complete. Didn't open it again that night. I sat at the table, hands folded, breathing even. I wasn't angry. That surprised me. I was focused. I called my attorney the next morning. Spoke plainly. Listened carefully. The trust was prepared quietly. Signed. Filed. Protection doesn't need noise. Christmas Eve came back into focus then. Not as a gathering. As a moment. Timing matters. I placed the folder into a sealed envelope. No label. No warning. I set it in the drawer beside my chair. I didn't rehearse anything. Truth doesn't need practice. I waited. I began to think, very carefully. After that night, time changed its texture. Not heavier. Sharper. I moved through my mornings with intention. Coffee poured the same way. Curtains opened at the same hour. Routine steadies the mind when emotions try to wander. The investigator called twice more. Always calm. Always precise. He didn't speculate. He reported. Dates. Locations. Spending patterns. Lila met the man regularly. Not casually. Deliberately. A property developer with resources and patience. The kind of man who waits for things to mature. Their emails weren't affectionate. They were transactional. Timelines outlined. Proceeds estimated. Steps confirmed. Daniel's name appeared often. Never with warmth. He's almost there. He trusts me. He'll convince her. That last line stayed with me. Not because it hurt. Because it clarified everything. Trust can be a bridge. Or a lever. I let the investigation finish without interruption. Truth needs room to arrive fully. When the final packet came, I laid everything out on my desk. Photographs arranged neatly. Emails stacked in order. Financial records clipped together. I read each page once. Only once. I didn't need to relive it. I needed to understand it. This wasn't reckless greed. It was careful planning. Sell the house. Secure the money. Stabilize assets. Then leave. A short marriage designed for long gain. Daniel wouldn't see it yet. Love had him disoriented. I didn't resent him for that. Love does that to good people. I met with my attorney quietly. No urgency in my voice. No accusation. We spoke about boundaries, protections, what could and could not be touched. The trust was already in motion. Finalized. Filed. I asked one question. Can this remain private until I choose? She nodded. Completely. That was enough. I didn't confront Daniel. I didn't warn Lila. I didn't change my tone with either of them. I let normal continue. We shared a meal once. Polite. Neutral. Lila talked about housing markets. About timing. About opportunity. I listened. Sipped my tea. She thought she was guiding the conversation. I was measuring it. I wrapped the gifts slowly. Carefully. The sedan paperwork stayed locked away. Keys placed in a small box. The tote bag stayed unused. Tags intact. Everything clean. Uncomplicated. The envelope mattered most. I sealed it myself. Pressed the clasp shut firmly. I didn't write a name on it. Names give people time to prepare. I slid it into the drawer beside my chair. The same chair I always use. Not hidden. Just waiting. The week before Christmas, Lila messaged me about downsizing again. I replied kindly. Non-committal. Silence, when chosen, can be disarming. I slept better than I had in months, because the work was done. There was nothing left to uncover, nothing left to chase. Only timing remained. Christmas Eve has a way of lowering defenses. People expect warmth. They don't expect clarity. I set the table again. Same dishes, same candles. Not for nostalgia, for balance. When everything looks familiar, truth stands out more clearly. I placed the envelope where my hand could reach it easily. Didn't touch it again. I sat in my chair, hands folded, breathing steady. The stage was set. All I had to do was wait. Christmas Eve arrived quietly. Clear sky, soft light, the kind of morning that doesn't warn you. I cooked the way I always do, unhurried, measured. Nothing about my movements suggested anything unusual. That mattered. When Daniel and Lila arrived, they looked comfortable, confident. People do, when they believe they're in control. We ate first. Small talk. Polite laughter that never quite reached the eyes. I watched hands more than faces. Who reached for bread? Who checked a phone? Who waited to speak? After dinner, we moved to the living room. Same seats as before. Tree lights blinking softly, like nothing had changed. I handed Daniel his gift first. The small box. Plain ribbon. He opened it slowly, then stopped breathing for a moment. "Mom, is this?" "Go look," I said gently. When he came back in from the garage, his eyes were bright. Surprised. Grateful. He hugged me without hesitation. That mattered too. I handed Lila her gift next. She smiled wider this time. Checked the brand label. Set it beside her with care. Then I folded my hands in my lap and waited. Daniel cleared his throat again. "Didn't look at me this time. We didn't get you anything," he said. "I know," I replied. The silence stretched longer now, different from before. That's when I reached into the drawer. Slowly. No announcement. I placed the sealed envelope on the table, centered it, straightened it once. Daniel frowned. Lila's posture changed. "What's that?" he asked. "Something you need to see," I said. Lila reached for it first. Her fingers hesitated. "Open it," I said calmly. She did. Photographs slid out first. The color drained immediately. Daniel leaned forward, picked one up. "What is this?" Then the emails. Printed. Highlighted. He read silently. Once. Then again. His breathing changed. The financial records followed. Numbers don't argue. Daniel looked at her. No raised voice. "Is this real?" Lila spoke too quickly. Tried to laugh it away. "This is taken out of context." "Leave," Daniel said. She blinked. "What?" "Leave. Now." No shouting. No bargaining. She stood slowly. Grabbed her bag. "You're making a mistake," she said. Daniel didn't answer. The door closed behind her. Hard enough to shake the ornaments. The room went still. Daniel sat down heavily. Covered his face. "I'm so sorry," he said. I waited a moment, then spoke. "The house is protected," I said. "It's in a trust, already done." He looked up at me, relief mixed with shame. "You planned this," he whispered. "I prepared," I said quietly. He nodded, tears finally falling. We sat there in silence, tree lights blinking softly. Sometimes the truth doesn't explode, it settles. And in that silence, I finally felt free. Morning came gently. A pale ribbon of light across the kitchen floor. 2 cups set out before either of us spoke. Daniel slept in his old room. The door closed. Not locked. I brewed coffee slowly. Measured the grounds by habit. Listened to the quiet do its work. He came in a little later. Hair uncombed. Shoulders heavy. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said again. Not rushed. Not defensive. This time, it landed differently. He sat at the table where he'd done homework as a boy. Wrapped both hands around the mug. Didn't reach for his phone. That mattered. We didn't talk much about Lila. There would be attorneys. Paperwork. Time enough for that. What mattered was what stayed. He stayed. We talked about small things. A loose hinge. A leaky faucet. What to make for dinner. Rebuilding doesn't begin with speeches. It begins with presence. At one point, Daniel looked around the kitchen. Really looked. "I almost helped her take this," he said quietly. I reached across the table, covered his hand with mine. You didn't, I said. And you don't have to punish yourself forever. He nodded, swallowed. I let her convince me you needed to learn a lesson, he said. I held his gaze. Calm, steady. I already learned mine, I replied. That love doesn't require surrender. That silence can be strategy. That patience is power, when chosen. And that self-respect, quiet, steady self-respect, is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. Christmas didn't look the way I imagined. There were no perfect photos, no tidy bows on the ending, but there was peace, and peace lasts longer than wrapping paper. If you're listening and you've felt overlooked, if you've given quietly and been dismissed casually, please hear this. You're allowed to protect what's yours. You're allowed to wait. You're allowed to choose dignity over approval, even when it's family, especially then. If this story spoke to you, share what it stirred in you. Sometimes telling the truth out loud is where healing begins.